Good afternoon to you. Mark Sutton with HurricaneTrack.com. It's Wednesday, the 19th day of January 2022, and I'm putting this video together to talk about this upcoming winter storm and the potential for a major ice event, especially in parts of eastern North Carolina. Now, I don't want to ignore the other states that are going to be involved in this winter storm. We're going to take a look at the broad picture, but then I'm going to zero in especially on North Carolina. That's my home state. I'm down here in the Wilmington, North Carolina area, and we're looking at the potential of some significant ice accumulation, travel becoming impossible, and power lines down, trees down, power outages, internet out, people stuck at home, can't go to work, flights canceled, that kind of thing going to be potentially, the potential is there. Low confidence right now because these ice storms are hard to predict, especially since we're still talking about more than 24 hours out. But the potential is certainly there for this to become a crippling, big-time news-making event. So let's take a look, first of all, at the big picture. And this really helps us to understand what's coming. This little kind of powdery blue color right here, those are wind chill advisories as the cold Arctic air is spilling out of Canada. That Arctic air is going to sweep in and be in place. And remember, cold air is very thick, and it'll hold its own east of the mountains here. And then we're going to get this overrunning moisture coming up and a little wave of low pressure to develop off the Carolina coast. That will throw moisture back into this cold air area, and that's where we're going to get the precip. And the problem is, especially down from the sand hills, and if you know the geography of eastern North Carolina, you know what I'm talking about. Some areas you might be like, depending on where you live, you're going, well, what is a sand hill? This is all part of the geography of the North Carolina region. So the Sandhills area, east of Raleigh, down towards Fayetteville, and then working your way east from there towards the coastal plain, that's where the greatest threat of ice accumulation could be, because the cold air is going to be kind of shallow and kind of holding its own, and so the snow will fall, melt, because it's going to encounter this warm nose of Atlantic air that's going to move in, the marine influence. That snow will melt, turn into raindrops. Those raindrops will fall into a freezing air mass where they just coat the surface. As if it's really cold outside and you turned on your hose with like a very light mist. That's kind of what's going to happen, except it's going to be a pretty good duration. Maybe 24 hours of this nonsense going on. Sleet thrown into the mix where those snowflakes fall, they melt, they freeze before they get to the surface. They look like little BBs. That's your sleet. The bottom line, it's all going to add up to create quite a mess. So we have winter storm watches in effect for southeastern North Carolina, in fact all of eastern North Carolina, a good chunk of eastern South Carolina, northeast South Carolina, and extreme southeast Virginia. So this is the broad picture of what's happening. Let's take a look at the satellite view here, the water vapor shot, the cold air coming in, the Arctic air draining out of Canada, and then you've got this southern stream of moisture that'll eventually, like I said, form this weak low pressure area. Not going to be able to get these two pieces of energy to join up off the coast here and create a big storm that moves to the northeast. Just not in the cards this time. But what we will have is this chance for wintry precipitation across this area in the form of a nasty ice storm, as I've mentioned, with some snow back where the air column is thick enough. That cold air column is thick enough to support snow all the way down. So looking at the GFS from the 12Z run today, this is very helpful to understand. There's that big chunk of Arctic air coming down out of Canada, 1048 millibar high. And you can see these isobars on here. These are almost identical to what we would think of as contour lines. These represent lines of equal pressure. And when you got them all bundled up like that, so many close together, A, it's windy. And B, that is a thick, gigantic chunk of air. And this big air mass, as it were, sinking southeast out of Canada, that'll sink south and spread into the Carolinas. And then you're going to watch this little boundary right here. You can see it right there, pulling in the moisture from the Pacific over here. And that'll eventually create a little weak low pressure area, just a little wave, just enough to throw the moisture back into the Carolinas. And we're going to get this nasty winter storm taking shape, and you can see that unfolding there as early as this evening across portions of southeast Missouri and parts of the Tennessee Valley. A very cold rain, even some severe thunderstorms possible for Texas, where there is a severe thunderstorm watch, a very dynamic storm system, but kind of atypical. We don't have a big comma-shaped low-pressure area, moving up like we see these Miller A or Miller B storms, as they're called. This is more of your sort of frontal boundary, weak frontal boundary with the moisture overrunning the cold air, with no major dynamics involved to get you a singular blockbuster storm. But the result is still going to be pretty nasty. As we get out to Thursday afternoon, the Arctic air settles in. And look, you can even see the shape of it here. It spills off to the east over Quebec. There's northeast winds coming down, funneling that cold air east of the mountains here into the Carolinas, the coastal plain of Virginia as well. And that does extend up to the northeast from there. But you guys, in the mid-Atlantic at least, and the northeast and in New England, you're used to this. Not ice storms. You never get used to ice storms. Luckily, they are fairly rare. But snow and some ice, sleet, whatever, but wintry weather as a whole, you're used to that. Carolinas down here, not so much. And ice storms just make things worse. So let's just zoom in here and go to the eastern part of the United States on the map extent here from the Tropical Tidbit site. Again, going out Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening, early Friday morning, there's enough cold air draining in on these northeast winds here, down into the coastal plain, banging up against the mountains here, acting as a dam. The Appalachians there, we call that cold air damming. It gets trapped all down in this area. And then you get the overrunning moisture coming over the top here, and from southwest flow aloft, and you have the ingredients for this nasty winter storm to set up. And there you go. By Friday morning, the purples, the pinks there, and just a little bit of blue on the northwest edge, right where the air column is still 32 degrees or lower, deep into the atmosphere. That's where you're going to have the snow. Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, points north and east from there. I'll show you some slides from the Weather Service in a minute. I don't want to steal their thunder, no pun intended, or maybe it was. They did prepare some really good slides that I want to show you. But yes, it starts Friday morning. So in my estimation and advice to people, as if, it's not up to me, but I'm just telling you, Wake County schools all the way down to the Hanover County schools and all the counties in between, roll it up. Just shut it down for Friday. That's my best advice to you. Obviously, they consult with the Weather Service. They don't consult with Mark Sudduth. But believe me, this is going to be a nasty setup. And you just need to sit at home on Friday and not get out there, because that's Friday morning, 7 a.m. Eastern. By 1 p.m. Eastern, more snow on the northwest side. And then your sleet in the purple, your freezing rain in the pinkish color. And by Friday evening, that settles in even more. Maybe more snow in eastern North Carolina by that time as colder air is able to filter in. But the damage will be done, especially down here in extreme southeast North Carolina, right in the coastal plain there, where we will have ice, in the form of the freezing rain, the rain falling on freezing surfaces, bridges, overpasses, exposed leaves, if there's any on any of the trees that are evergreens, pine trees, and some of our leafy trees that don't lose their leaves during the winter, your evergreens, that's why they call them that. Bridges, overpasses, power lines, you name it, it's going to be nasty. Finally, everything starts to get out of here, more or less, by later in the day on Saturday. So that's the general makeup of this. We'll just go back and run it through again. See what I mean? It's just this little wave of low pressure right there. It gets started in the afternoon, early morning to afternoon hours. Right there, there's just a little weak surface reflection of the low. Counterclockwise flow around it. We'll throw that moisture back over the cold air that is in place. There's your 1040 millibar high up there in Canada. That northeast wind flowing it down, spilling it down like molasses, entrenched. And that's the problem. It's not thick enough. There's not enough of it all the way up to the snow factory, if you will, in the clouds, so that the snow stays snow all the way down. If it did that, we wouldn't have as many problems coming up. But it looks like there's going to be more liquid precip falling onto frozen surfaces, and then we're going to have a real problem because of that. So here's a couple of PowerPoint decks for you. I'll put links to these in the description of the video. This is out of the National Weather Service Raleigh, North Carolina, these are the counties that they are forecasting for. That's called their County Warning Area, or CWA. And this is their briefing from 9 o'clock this morning. There will be another one probably coming up in the next hour or so. And we can see a nice matrix of the different impacts here. Snow 2 to 5 inches. Where? Mainly north of Highway 24, with the highest amounts northeast of the triangle. That's Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, starting late tomorrow night through Friday night. Then you've got your ice, your wind, your power outages, etc. And this power outage part right here, this could be very problematic for the areas where you get ice accrual, accretion. Accrual? I don't know if that's a word. Accumulation, let's just say that. And then that'll be a big contributor to power outages. So make sure you're ready. Get that generator tested now, not tomorrow. Do it now. Dangerous road conditions, I-95, Highway 64, I-85 through there. Yuck. And then this really nice infographic indicating, if you need it on a scale for you to understand, 1 through 5 or green through purple, with extreme being on the far right-hand side. All of these are significant impacts. So we're talking 4 out of 5 for the most, all of these different categories, if you will, from snow, freezing rain, travel, wind, and power outage potential. 4 out of the 5 parameters are significant. So that's eye-opening. It really should be. Nice flow chart of what to expect and when. Again, I'll put this in the description of today's video so you can check it out. Their ice prediction from the models right now, the higher ice totals would happen the farther southeast you go, towards the coastal plain, out of the eastern Piedmont and the Sandhills, all right? Then the snow, everybody wants snow, and I agree, snow would be a lot better than this BS, but what can you do? Some of the computer models indicating these are the snow amounts right now. This will change. This will change. It's all changeable every time there's new model guidance. But as of this morning, maybe close to 5 inches along parts of the I-95 corridor near Rocky Mount, Lewisburg, lesser amounts the farther southwest you go. And it just depends on where the moisture and the deep column of cold air sets up as to where the heaviest snow totals will be. The greater Raleigh-Durham area, maybe we can call it 3 to 5 inches. That's a good bet overall. And with it being pretty cold, it'll stick pretty good, and you can have some fun there Friday and into Saturday. Just be careful traveling, all right? And then just general information on getting your car ready and other things to expect, including the barking dogs outside. Keep those pets indoors. Let them go out and play in the snow, I guess. Other social media links to the Weather Service. Very, very good communication tools from them. Same thing for Southeast North Carolina. Just want to show you this. Their headline, January 21-22 potential ice storm. Where? Pender County on the east, Marlborough County on the northwest, down to Georgetown County on the southwest, including the greater Wilmington area, my hometown, Brunswick and Hanover counties. Winter storm watch in effect for this area. Here's that matrix of impacts. Power outages, yes. Snow, not so much. Ice, yep, nasty. Sleet. Now here, it's a little different. Not much snow. The biggest impact right here, ice. Right through the Wilmington area, over to Leland, up towards Burgaw. Southeast North Carolina, the coastal plain, just away from the coast there. Significant icing problems. Travel is going to be treacherous, and so just be aware of that. And it's not just, let me get back on here and talk to you. Sometimes you get talked at. I like to talk to you. I don't want to feel like I'm lecturing you here. So it's not just ice on the roads. You say, I got a big truck. A lot of trucks down here in Southeast North Carolina. I got a truck now. It's a Tacoma. It's got 4-wheel drive. I can drive on that ice. Hey, yeah, sure, go right ahead. Seriously. You can't. 4-wheel drive isn't going to help on ice because you still have the laws of physics that are at play. An object in motion tends to stay in motion until affected upon by some other object or whatever. There's a physics thing going on there, and you don't just get to stop on a dime in ice. Snow is different. Your vehicle can make contact with the pavement, and you get a little bit better chance. Ice, you got that film layer there. That ice is a solid, hello. Snow is kind of in between. It's solid, yeah, but it's also malleable. The ice generally is not, especially with vehicles. And I mean, unless you've got like a 747 or some massive 5, 10, 20 ton vehicle, you know, that really crushes that ice down, and I don't know who does, you got no business being out there. But also, trees coming down, big branches breaking off, trees sagging and then snapping, power lines down. You don't want to be driving into those. You know, you have a big power line, or the pole itself, the edges of it sticking out, splintered, whatever, that goes right through your windshield. And this is not the time to be having to go to the hospital. I hate to bring up the pandemic stuff again, but believe me when I tell you, hospitals down here in southeast North Carolina, you don't want to have to go there right now. They are very busy. I know that from firsthand experience, and that's all I can say about that. Somebody that I know and love very well works for the hospital. We'll just say that. So it's busy. Stay out of the hospital and let them deal with the true emergencies without you contributing to it being on the road. Watches and warnings, winter storm watch, onset of the precip, 6 to 10 a.m., overnight hours tomorrow night into Friday. Finally, later in the day, it gets down into extreme southeast North Carolina. And let me just see when this is going to begin Friday morning. So by sunup Friday, it will have begun for the most part in the southeast North Carolina area. And by mid-afternoon Friday, it's on, and you better be where you need to be. Now this is what really, let's use a color that we can all see. This is what really gives me the heebie-jeebies here. This red up to a ½ inch of ice. So that's about an inch right there. See that? That's an inch, roughly. That is about a ½ inch right there. That's a lot of freaking ice. You know, you think about the thickness of this little SanDisk holder, this little plastic guy right here. Look how thick that is. It would be twice as thick, if not more. That's a little bit under a ½ inch. So at least that much ice accumulating on everything that's exposed to the air, especially trees, power lines, bridges, overpasses, things that can cause problems, all right? So take that into consideration. Now this is still fairly low confidence because there might be enough warm air that it's just a cold rain, but I think later in the day, Friday, it gets cold enough dense cold air comes down, especially at the surface, that this stays mostly freezing rain, some sleet, maybe a little bit of snow on the very end of all of this to kind of glaze all the ice over with a little coating of snow. But then underneath that snow is all that ice, so that can actually make things worse. So take this to heart, people. A real big problem. And you got I-40 that starts down here, 74, 76 goes west out to I-95. This area right through here, southeast North Carolina, a lot of it's rural. You got 421 that goes through there, US 17 as well, up through the coastal plain. That can be a problem for travel, so please take this seriously. Be very careful out there. Reasonable worst case scenario, lots of different ways to look at these probabilities as to what could happen. Little to no snow chances at all, so forth and so on. All right, again, I will post this, links to both of these PDFs for you in the description of this video. Now, my plans are going to be to set up some camera systems to cover this, which is interesting because freezing rain on these cams makes it look like the 1970s version of that movie Westworld. Remember that one? Maybe? What was it? Yul Brynner that was in it? The new Westworld that's on HBO Max or whatever it is, that's different. But the old Westworld, everything was got there when it showed the robot's point of view, it was like all pixelated. You know, that glazed over traffic cam look. Our cams do really well in wind, rain that's blowing, but not so much freezing rain. Even the snow tends to kind of fall off the front of our cams because the surface is very slick, and so the snow doesn't have enough grab, if you will, and it slumps off. Unless it's blowing on there and it gets impacted, there's not much you can do. So I'm a little hesitant. It's like, well, you know, I don't want to say, yeah, we're setting up all these cams and it's going to be amazing coverage. I mean, it should be, but these cams may get iced over and we're just looking through like, you know, we don't see much. But nothing ventured, nothing gained. So starting tomorrow evening, before all this crap comes in, and it is crap. I mean, this is horrible. Ice storms are just like no good. I'm going to set some equipment up the I-95 corridor, maybe some stuff in eastern North Carolina out on 64, somewhere like that, and just see what we get. 5, 6 camera systems, a couple of them with some of our Kestrel data sensors so we can keep an eye on those ground temperatures. I will provide these feeds to the Weather Service Raleigh, the Weather Service Wilmington, the Weather Service Morehead City, Newport area, and we'll be able to monitor what's going on, and we'll see what's happening. I'll tweet this stuff as well, what the cameras are seeing on social media, but you can watch it live through our crowdfunding effort at patreon.com/HurricaneTrack. It's all part of our hurricane project that we do stuff in the off season, and you can just either go to that link or point your device at that QR code. This is what we do. It's all crowdfunded. You can connect and follow Facebook, Twitter, YouTube at HurricaneTrack. That's the brand. In the off season, covering more than just hurricanes. And since this is in my backyard, you bet I'll be on top of it. I'm probably going to lose power. I've already got plans to, and yes, I do have a generator. Never had to use it, so I'm not like completely, it's got to get really bad for me to have to use a generator, put it that way. And we're not going to have temperatures down in the teens or anything like that. So we'll be all right. A couple days we might have power out and we'll do fine. But yeah, we'll give it our best shot to do some coverage. Talk about it on social media. We'd love to hear from you in the comments of this video as this goes along on social media, elsewhere, Twitter, Facebook. CJ doing a great job over on Facebook for us to keep people engaged, and we will do that for this event going forward. All right. Stay safe out there. Stay on top of it. Read those links that I post, and we'll see what happens. Thanks for watching. I'm Mark Seth, HurricaneTrack.com. I'll see you from out there in the winter wonderland to come.